Here we're going to tie the Last Chance Cripple. This is a fly developed on the Henry's Fork in Last Chance, Idaho. First thing we're going to do is start off with some Mallard flank feathers in natural, and we're going to wrap these in right on top of the shank of the hook. And they're going to be about the length of the shank of the hook as well. Then the next thing to do is to tie in some Antron yarn in either cream or olive. We're also going to tie this in on top of the shank of the hook. I'm going to try to keep both of these materials on top of the shank as I wrap them back, keeping them centered right on top. Once I get to the back, I'm going to take my scissors here. I'm going to trim that Antron about half the length of the tail, the Mallard flank. Then I'm going to take my thread forward, just kind of cover everything up here. And I'm going to take it back, kind of preparing a nice smooth body for the next step here, which is going to be the body, which I'm going to tie in a Goose Biot. I'm going to tie in a olive Goose Biot. That'll be the color that we're going to be tying. This fly can also be tied in tan and sulfur yellow and black. It can be tied in a lot of different colors. And I'm just going to very delicately clip into the Biot here. I'm going to take it, I'm going to wrap it around the shank of the hook so that the ridge of the Biot faces up. You can see that's standing up. That's what I want. And just make one wrap right in front of the other. Once I run out of room here, I'm just going to capture that Biot. Cover it all up. Next thing to do is to dub the thorax. I'm going to use some UV ice dubbing. I'm going to use just a little bit of olive here. Got to be very careful not to overdo it with this dubbing. It's a very coarse material, so it's hard to work with. I just build up a little bit of a thorax there. Now the next thing to do is to tie in the CDC. I'm just going to use natural Dun CDC. And you can kind of wet your fingers a little bit here to help it lay down. And we're going to tie in a tuft on the front of the fly that's about the length of the shank of the hook. So all I do is just basically start it and wrap it in, making sure all the fibers are on the top of the shank of the hook. And then I'm going to wrap back all the way to the thorax. I'm going to trim the back end of this CDC so it's just a hair longer than the thorax. And then I can lay a couple of wraps down right in front of this CDC feather. That'll help kind of prop it up. Then what we're going to do is just take our thread back to the thorax, and we're going to tie in a whiting Grizzly Rooster feather. And we can trim out the stem. Take our thread here all the way to the front. Now we can just take that Grizzly feather and just build up a hackle, working our way forward. Till we get to the head here, where I can capture that Grizzly feather. Give it a couple nice tight wraps. Pull it out. I'm going to lift up, lay down a couple wraps underneath that CDC that'll help prop it up. Then I can whip finish underneath all that CDC. Trim out your thread. You essentially have a finished last chance cripple. This is a green color, can imitate a blue-winged olive, a flav, a green drake if you tied it in large enough size, and a very effective pattern for fish that are keyed in on basically emerging or crippled insects. And you can buy all the material for this fly at intheriffle.com.